So I signed up for that first full Ironman. That was in 2011. I did it. I was miserable. I said I would never going to do one again. Then I signed up and did another one the next year.
Welcome, everybody, to our latest episode of the Roane General Hospital For Your Health podcast. We have been rolling through these each and every Friday, and it's been a lot of fun to talk with some of the administrators here at Roane General Hospital, some of the people who are directly involved in the program. But what we wanted to do was make this a lot of human interest as well, with people from the community of Roane County and, of course, the surrounding communities. Had a really great opportunity to speak with BJ Schreckengost on an earlier podcast about her journey of health and, of course, the life-changing event that took place for her with her accident and coming back from that. And it was really a very incredible story to tell. Very happy to be joined today by another young individual. I'm calling him young because he's younger than me, and this is Quinton Keaton with us. Quinton is the general manager at Jack Garrett Ford, but we're not going to talk about your business savvy today. What we're going to talk about, Quinton, is a really cool story that you have to tell with regards to your athletic journey and your health journey physically and mentally and the way that you've attacked it too. Number one, thanks for coming, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Number one, though, before we get into the story that we're going to talk about with you, I want to talk about your journey through health and wellness. You have been an active human being probably as long as I can remember. You were very athletically minded in high school. And you kept that going throughout. So let's take it all the way back to where it started with you and your journey to health and wellness.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, when I was at a very young age of probably like kindergarten, I started getting involved in baseball and basketball, stuff like that. My mom, she was a softball player and basketball player when she was younger, and she got us involved in some of that stuff, and I enjoyed it. And then as I got older, I started doing some individual sports like track and wrestling, and that's when that's when it really bit me. I really enjoyed the feeling of winning and having that success on my own, but still being part of a team. So that was through high school, and then college. I continued. We did some dorm room boxing, and we had some.
Was this sanctioned?
Not sanctioned. We had some of our own bare knuckle fights going on, and then I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu a little bit. Mountain biking and triathlons. Yeah.
Just very interesting, the navigation from one type of sport to another for you, because sometimes when I see kids who engage in sports, some of them fit together, like football and wrestling, for instance. Mm-hmm. But then you have something like golf and wrestling that don't seem to fit together. But whatever it is that bit you about these sports, these different types of sports, obviously with you, wrestling was important, and then Brazilian jiu-jitsu would feed right along to that.
Yeah.
Some combat sports type of stuff that you were doing in college, whether sanctioned
right.
or not. But so you do that through college, yeah. And then let's talk about your adult life. What got you back to Roane County, number one? I think it's an interesting story that brought you back here, because always wondering, younger human beings, younger professionals like yourself, where did the draw get you here, or how did you get here?
Well, so I lived in Charleston and worked at a car dealership down there. I was general sales manager for Ford Portionality at Burt Wolf, and I had a really good community of friends down there that I worked out with a lot. But I just happened to hop on the phone with Jack Garrett one day. He called me out of the blue on a dealer trade, and I just happened to pick up the phone, and he gave me the opportunity to buy Jack Garrett Ford and in a set amount of time. And I said, well, you know, I'm up for taking risk. I always have. So that's what led me back to here. But, you know, the process to get me to leave a good, secure job in Charleston where, you know, we had our home and our family started was knowing how good of a community Spencer is to raise your children. So I already had, Allegra was born already. Lincoln had just been born. And we planned on having more. So said, well, let's make the move and come back to Spencer and raise our family. So that's what we did.
Well, it was a great move, obviously, and of course, it's an opportunity for the name Jack Garrett Ford or Denby Garrett Ford. This is one of the oldest Ford dealerships, right?
Yeah,
in West Virginia.
Oldest one in West Virginia.
The oldest one
The
in West
oldest
Virginia.
one, yeah.
So you have kept that going. And again, when you came back here, obviously you started your kids in school and your life here. But it wasn't enough for you just to be a professional here. What you, for some reason, wanted to do was, whether it was just your love of sports yourself or your love of competitions, you started filtering that into community opportunities for others. And the reason I'm wanting to ask about this is the reason for our podcast is to talk about Roane General Hospital's commitment to prescription for your health and proactively trying to deal with all of the bad numbers that we have in Roane County, like, childhood obesity, smoking, all sorts of bad numbers, diabetes, all these things, and trying to go at those proactively with an opportunity to be healthy mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And you, as a business owner, have done a great job. And I think you and Roane General Hospital right now, a great connection between the two of you. You started a racing series. Obviously, Patch, you guys, and Roane General Hospital always involved in that. Many of the things that you have done since you started this journey here in Roane County have had a little tinge of Roane General with it.
Yeah, Roane General's been a big part of what I've done or what I've helped out with. It started for me with Patch. I met Dave McCutcheon. I started coaching some youth soccer. I've coached some wrestling along the way, and being able to help the kids I thought was a lot of fun. And then the experience that I had in Charleston with the things that I was able to do down there that I enjoyed to do, I was like, well, why can't Spencer have that too? I've always done the nut run. You've been there several times. We've done a nut run together a lot. And I was like, man, why not have more of these? Because they're like Charleston has a race series in the winter, the summer. So there's a lot of different opportunities to get out and be active. And I think being outside and being active is probably more important to me than just being active. I think being outside and getting that vitamin D is very important. So last year, Roane General Hospital has always been a part of the support in the race series. But last year, Dave was like, what's next, man? You're the idea guy. What's next? I said, well, I'd like to do a corporate cup. And he sort of pitched it to Doug Bentz, and then Kyle Raines, myself, Jeff Tanner, and Doug and Dave, we all sat down and we put on the first corporate cup, which was a series of athletic events, and it turned out great. I think everybody that did it had a really good time. And I think you even came down to, we ended up doing a beach wrestling tournament at the end, which was...
I had to see that.
That may have been the first in West Virginia. We weren't on a beach, but it was in the sand. But it was a beach wrestling tournament. That was a lot of fun.
You guys did created a beach volleyball pit.
We did, yeah.
Again, forward thinking. That's impressive to think about that and then just do it. I thought that was really neat. Some of the things that you have done, obviously, since you've been here is, of course, the racing series that you guys do. It's almost like a monthly deal, and you do such fun things with it. There, of course, there's the Dash and Splash. It's always so much fun. That ends at the local pool,
City pool, yeah.
The city pool that people can do the run or walk out into the trails. And then you've got, of course, the Halloween one that you have out at the golf course. You've got the Christmas sweater one, which is always a whole lot of fun if it's not icy and 0 degrees out. You did a Shamrock one, I think, for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
there's so many different ones. And
they've always been themed. There's been a lot of different themed ones.
And you utilize different portions of Roane County, which is kind of cool too. It's not the exact same race trail every single time.
No, yeah, we've had one at a lot of them downtown Spencer, but starting from Patch, we've had them at Charles Fork Lake, had them out the Methodist Trail or the Freshwater Trail, had them at the dealership, all over the place. The Roane County Golf Course. So yeah, we've been able to highlight a lot of areas of Roane County that folks may have not have necessarily even known about, like the Ben's Run Trail System. What a great trail system.
And that's something I wanted to talk about too. Obviously, the race series, and then you talked about the Corporate Cup. More than that, you have done some real work. You and some other guys have really done a good job of clearing out some places. Obviously, the Tour de Lake has come back. That's a big deal for Roane County. And again, this Ben's Run trail system you've been heavily involved in. For people who don't know what that is, there was a trail that led out right past the city pool. It was Ben's Run, and I think that was
there was a dam
an Eagle
there.
Scout project too to clear that at least.
To do it, yeah. So back in the day, though, there was the dams there
Yeah.
that supplied the ice company.
We only made it to the first one.
We only made
when
it to
we
the
were
first
kids.
one, right? Yeah, but they did come in and cleared some trails up to the top of that one, and then when Philip Smith was the city director, him and I believe Jacob Fetty had a big play in creating the main trail system. Trevor Mertz, he's always been huge on the trails. He's the one that sort of spearheads all the Tour de Lake stuff out Charles Fork Lake. And then Mark Bossert, he's been huge in this last remodeling of the Ben's Run. It's, if you haven't been up there, I know you did the dip and dash with us that one year, but it's graveled now pretty much.
Yeah.
It's such a user-friendly trail for anyone to be able to get to now.
I've been taking my dogs out there and walking with them. It's amazing what has been done at that place. I do remember as a kid at the junior high school that is now the COA, and one of the things we used to do, we would go out and walk that trail up to the dam and back just for a physical education class or a science class. We'd do some things out
Usually
there.
there was nothing good up there for us when we were kids, though.
Yeah.
Now
More often than not.
now it's much better.
There's much less graffiti.
Much less. Yeah, and talking about trail systems, that's another thing that Roane General Hospital has done. I don't know if you've seen their trails here, but I helped with that there probably 2 years ago. We did a race up here too for the Run and Race series, and we wanted to integrate Green Acres without having to go down to Parkersburg Road. So we put in a walking trail at the end of the hospital's property that cuts down onto Panorama Drive, Vallis Drive, the area there, connects Green Acres to the hospital. And then there's another 1 mile single track trail that sort of benches around their property, goes down, it connects into Mile Tree Trail. So it's just trying to get this whole trail infrastructure connected here in Roane County.
That's such a neat thing. And again, it offers people more safe ways to do some walking or some running or some jogging, whatever it is, trail running. Anyways, that's just something that's been a passion of yours, obviously, because you're interested in trying not only to keep yourself healthy, but trying to help the people who you serve as a business owner. You want them to be healthy. You want the kids of this community to be healthy. Also, by the way, Alpha that you were instrumental in bringing to town is a huge deal for kids who can still utilize that for wrestling off-season work and in-season work. All of that is fantastic, but I want to focus on you. I want you to get a little bit boastful about what we're going to talk about here. Right. You might be nuts, honestly. I think you have sometimes to be a little bit crazy to try to prep yourself for an Ironman triathlon. Now, there's triathlons all throughout the world. Mm-hmm. Some of them may be not quite full triathlons. Some of them are. It's not that you're unfamiliar with triathlon work. You've done some things like this. But when you hear the name Ironman, that's a different beast. The Ironman held annually in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. Let's go through the numbers first. How many miles of swimming?
2.4.
2.4 miles of swimming.
In the ocean, yeah.
A marathon, a full 26.2 mile marathon.
Yeah.
And then how many miles on the bike?
So in between the run and the swim, you got 112 miles on the bike. Yeah.
Okay, try to do one of those, generally speaking. People often ask me, what was it like to run across the country? How hard was it? You can't answer it unless you've done it. It's impossible, I think, to answer how difficult it is. Now, you can train as much as humanly possible to do what you did, but to actually do it, there's only one way to do it, is to just go do it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this decision to do an Ironman and then the amount of training that you had to do.
So I think I need to back up a little bit before to tell you how I got into doing the Ironman races. I always swam when I was younger, just had fun splashing around the pool, but I was never like a lap swimmer, never a competitive swimmer. Well, I had a couple friends that were doing these half Ironman triathlons. One of them who works at the hospital here now, Kevin Fletcher, he was doing one in Florida. Him, Dr. Duffy, and then my brother-in-law Brett and myself, we all signed up for this half Ironman in Florida. So it was started off with a 1.2-mile swim in a lake, so with gators, I'm sure, and then 56-mile bike followed up by a half marathon, 13.1-mile run. So I was training for that at the South Charleston Rec Center, and there's a guy beside me in one of the lanes who became one of my good friends. His name's Ron Arthur. He was captain of state police at the time, and I was swimming, and he sort of got my attention. I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "Man, you're fast. What are you training for?" I said, "Well, just a half Ironman." He said, "Man, that's awesome. I'm doing an Ironman in October." And this was, I think this was like July. He said, "You ought to do it with me." Like, all right, I'll do it. So I signed up for that first full Ironman. That was in 2011. I did it. I was miserable. I said I would never going to do one again. And then I signed up and did another one the next year. So this was the Ironman distance. So Ironman distance is full 140.6 miles. So fast forward, I get to working here in Spencer, and my kids are growing up, and I want them to see me being active. You know, my daughter was a serial runner. She ran a mile every day for multiple years. And they do this training with me. So it's not just me out there by myself all the time. On some of the longer stuff, it definitely is. But like when I was training for our first one, I would do 100-mile bike rides with Allegra in the trailer behind me. So I'd be pulling her in a trailer. So we had a lot of good father and daughter time together. All right. So I signed up for one. And when I'm racing, I realized that I had the opportunity to qualify for the world championship. You got to qualify. You have to be top in your age group or top in your group at one of these qualifying races. And then if you aren't number one, they sort of roll down and do a selection process after that. So Chattanooga Ironman in 2019? No, would have been 20. It was right around COVID time. But anyway, I did Ironman Chattanooga, and I got first place in the XC group 49 and under. So I qualified for Kona. So Kona is the world championship. Yeah. Well, the next year they announced that for the first time in history, they were going to move Kona to France. Oh. So they're like, "All right, you're going to France." I'm like, "Well, I don't want to go to France. I want to go to Kona." That's the whole, that's
half the reason.
That's half the reason. So they gave me the opportunity to defer to the next year. And so I had 2 years to sort of prepare for Kona in Hawaii. Yeah. So that's sort of how I got to the point of being able to race in Kona.
Let's get into that. Obviously, the training that it takes. What would be an average for you for a week, for a day? Obviously, you have to split your time. Yeah. And again, one of the things you have to do is time management. Number one, you're a business owner. Yeah. You're a father of 3. You're a husband, and you got a lot of irons in the fire around here. So to find the time for yourself personally, to do what you have to do to get yourself ready for that, obviously sacrifices have to be made. Yeah. What was your schedule like each week leading up to the World Championships?
So when I really got into it, I would start my days around 5 a.m. I'd usually try to get a hour and a half, 2 hour workout in before the family would wake up and before I'd go to work. And then if I had time at lunch, I'd do a lunch swim. I'd come up here and swim with Kyle Raines and Justin Bossert in the endless pool. Do that around lunchtime, and then after work, I would coach wrestling, and I'd usually work out with them and try to get another run in there. And then on the weekends is when the long stuff would come in. Yeah. So usually Saturday mornings, I would do a long run, which would be, once I got into the peak of it, it'd be like 20, 22 miles. So I'd do that. It'd take anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours. And that's why I would start at 5 a.m. That way I could get that done, get a shower, and get back to the dealership before 8:30, 9 o'clock when we got started. And then on Sunday, the hardest part really was getting the bike rides in, because to get 100-mile rides in, especially around here, you got to spend a lot of time out there. And that's the hardest thing, to be away from your family and away from your friends or your work obligations, and commit to doing those rides.
And again, not easy to find 100 miles around here. I mean, a lot of things have to be planned ahead. I mean, obviously you would get used to finding certain routes that you can take, but being out on a bike for 100 miles, can get a little bit stagnant, I would imagine.
Gets very boring. And then when you've got your training set and you say, all right, so Friday I've got to do a 3-hour bike ride, which would, might be ride out Barcut, out Grace, out Reedy, Liverpool, back to town. That's all fun because you're outside and outdoors. But when it's a thunderstorm and you can't do that, you put your bike on a stationary trainer and you're sitting in a room for 3 hours just pedaling, and you're already committed. You have to do it or you're going to suffer when you race. But yeah, I think for me, definitely it gets stagnant riding the same courses. So I was always on my computer, on my maps, trying to find a relatively flat route that was fun. So I think my go-to, my longer rides that I did ended up in Reedy a lot, like Liverpool Road, Reedy, Ripley. One morning I got up and I rode from my house into Ripley from 33, the new road, new road to Ripley, and then out Liverpool Road to Reedy, and then turned back around, came back to Ripley, and then went out Frozen Camp, went out Gay, and came back Pinal. Yeah. And then Middle Fork, back into Spencer. So
just one morning, by the way, those of you watching, just one morning, just for the heck of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just have to do it. And on the bike, it's a little more dangerous because you're out there competing with traffic. Trevor Mertz would ride with me some on the longer rides, and I think after one of them, he swore me off and was never going to ride a road bike again. Actually, and Trevor may get mad at me for telling this story, but it was I think we were riding like 75 miles that day. It was hot. You know how hot it was this summer.
Yeah.
It was like 100 degree day, and it ended. The ride was going to end riding up the backside of 14. We were going to go past the golf course on Reedyville Road, turn right on 14, and ride up that hill, and then there at my house.
Yeah.
And you know how brutal that hill is. So we were out of water, and we got to the golf course, and we went in to get some water. Fortunately, they knew us and gave us some water because didn't have any money on me or anything. At that time, we'd already spent it all. And the woman was working there. He goes, "Are you getting ready to go to town?" She said, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I ride with you?" And she said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Good. I'm leaving my bike here." So Trevor's left his bike there and just rode back into town with her. He's like, "I'm done with this." So, and Trevor's a phenomenal cyclist.
Yes.
I mean, he's been cycling for years. So it goes to show that it can take a lot out of you.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Well, and again, you've been doing a lot of you've been athletic and you've been active for so long that it's just something part of your nature. But even at that, the commitment that's required to do something more insane than just normal exercising and work, which the Ironman absolutely is. As you mentioned the numbers, 2.4 miles swimming, 112 miles on a bike, and a 26.2-mile marathon. People hear marathon, and people train all their lives to do a marathon. So to do the impossible, which, if you think about how many people do these things versus the population, it's a very small percentage of the population who can complete these things.
Yeah.
So you get yourselves prepared for this. You get yourself prepared for this, and I want people to hear about the sacrifices in the training, because what we're talking about is you are going to have to sacrifice to be in this prescription for your health program. You're going to have to sacrifice some time, some effort. So you may have to sacrifice a little bit of your favorite foods, whatever it may be, but it is possible for someone as busy as you are to find the time, to make the time, to do what was necessary, as you said, to go to Kona and compete in the World Championships in the Ironman in Hawaii. It required sacrifice. And so you put forth the effort, the sacrifice, your family put forth the effort, the sacrifice to do something that was very important to you. You told me a little bit about the actual race itself. Let's talk about the race itself. Let's talk about getting out there, getting started, how neat it had to be for you to finally be in this moment.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. The whole week is just an extreme event. They had banquets that my wife and I went to, and the kids, and I do need to thank my wife so much because there's so much that she did, and she picked up the slack that I couldn't do when I was training and doing this race with the kids and everything else. But when we went over there race week, we had really good meals, we had really good entertainment, fire dancers. We got to learn a lot about the Hawaiian culture. We joined the Fellowship of Christian Athletes group out there for their Iron Prayer. They do nice church service. So we got to see a Hawaiian church service right before the race. So just like the whole week leading up to before the race was cool. One of probably my best memories out there before the race was they have a boat out there. It's the coffee boat, and you can pre-swim the course. They've got buoys out there, 1.2 miles out, 1.2 miles back that you can swim to. But probably about a 3/4 of a mile out there, there's a boat floating, and they have coffee on it. So you swim up to the boat, and they give you coffee. So we'd get up it was daylight early out there, so we'd get up at 6 and go swim out to the coffee boat and have some coffee with all these world-class athletes. And I don't consider myself a world-class athlete, even though I did qualify for this race. I think there was only like 680 people from America that qualified for it over those 2 years. And the rest of the people from like Australia and these super strong athletes that you saw out there is just like, oh my gosh, very intimidating. So that was a really fun part, getting out to the coffee boat and having the coffee before. But when the logistics, the corporation that puts this on, the Ironman Corporation, they've got their stuff together. The amount of people that it takes to put one of these races on is absolutely incredible.
If you can't imagine the people descending upon one location for this, the people who are in the race, number one,
and all the volunteers,
all the family members, all the casual fans, it's got to be, again, a logistical nightmare, but they've been doing it well for so long.
And incredible just to see them orchestrate all that. I think there's like 5,000 volunteers, is what they said.
So they butter you up nicely with all this fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so you're getting nice and relaxed in Hawaii, and the family's out there, and you're just like, man, this is the life.
Yeah.
Well, and then race day happens.
But sort of, because we're on the Big Island, Hawaii. And like when we got there, my wife's like, what is this? This is ugly. It's not the Hawaii that you see in movies. Like we get off the airplane and we get on this vehicle to take us to our rental car, and we're going through the lava fields. It's just brown lava everywhere, and it's black lava, and it's hot, and it's windy. So it's not that pretty, but I don't even remember where I was going with that. But so it wasn't the relaxing Hawaii that you would think.
Yeah.
And I did have the opportunity I ran 10 miles a few days before the race. At one point, I rode 30 miles with another guy. So I did get to experience the island conditions a little bit. But so race night, we got to check our bike in, check our shoes in, check all of our nutrition in. You have to plan for your nutrition on the race, like what you're going to eat, and you do get one bag in the middle of the ride, one bag in the middle of the run that you can put like gels is what I would eat. Yeah. Gels and energy bars and
those goo gels. Ugh.
Yeah, a lot of electrolytes.
Sorry, I'm having some PTSD moments right now.
Yeah, because that stuff gives you some GI distress. It's not the most good stuff to take in. So we do all that the night before the race. This was Friday night, and then at 4 a.m. we had to be there for body markings, where they mark your body, they check your in, they check your chip, make sure it's happening, and it was in groups. So my age group, 40 to 45 year olds, were in one group, and our wave started at, I think it was 7:10 a.m. Mm-hmm. So from 4 to 7, I'm just like so nervous. And you get out there and you're like, oh, what's the conditions going to be like today? Because the conditions on Hawaii can change pretty drastically. Yeah. And I remember hearing one of the race officials say, the bike's going to be brutal for anybody that doesn't get out there and get it done fast. So get out there and get your bike done fast. Like the winds are going to be, you start a climb up to Hawaii. I think it's like 4,000 feet of elevation gain on that you get on the bike there in that portion. And that's when the wind started to kick in. So you're like, get your bike done quick to avoid the winds. So that's in my mind. But so 7:10, we get started and we get into the water. We swim out to probably 100 yards off the beach there. And it's beautiful. Like you can see down, you can see the coral below you. You can see all the tropical fish and just the beauty of the ocean's all right there below you. But it's real choppy and there's big swells. Like it wasn't big waves like there was big waves crashing down on the beach, but like where you're out in the ocean a little bit, you just have the swells. So I was worried about getting a little seasick, and I did get a little bit seasick, but not horribly. because just you're drinking salt water, not on purpose, but you're swimming, you're trying to breathe, and a wave crashed in your face, you're going to get a little bit of salt water in you. So I get about a mile into the swim, and I look down, and there was a school of dolphins underneath me, probably like 20 feet below me. So that was really cool, and that was reassuring. But so you get out, and the way the water's coming in, it's sort of coming from my right side when I'm swimming out, and it's sort of pushing you this way. So you got to swim at an angle just to stay in a straight line. We turn around this big boat and start to come back, and it was so much more like choppy.
Yeah.
Just from the way your body position changed and the waves were hitting you. And then probably 2 miles in, maybe 2.2, I got a really bad cramp in my leg.
Right off of the bat.
Super bad cramps. Like my right leg, and I'd taken proper amount of dosage of electrolytes for my body. I'm like, why am I having these bad cramps? And it was like lightning cramps. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But so I quit kicking as much. I'm still just pulling with my arms. And I got to
save a little bit of your legs for a 112-mile bike ride.
112-mile bike. So I get out of the water in like an hour and 20 minutes, which was about where I thought I would be, hour 25, something like that. And I get out of the water, and they say, turn around. I turn around. They start spraying me. I'm like, what's going on? It's like, there's Portuguese man-of-wars. Everybody's been getting stung with jellyfish. So I look down, and my legs that's why I wasn't even cramping. I was just getting shocked by jellyfish. So they spray it, and there was one guy that had it like all over his face. And he's like, spray it in my face. He's like, it's going to burn. He's like, I don't care. Just spray me down. So he sprayed him down in his face.
Again, you're not just doing this in a pool. This is real life.
Yeah,
there are real. Oh, there's things there.
There's things. Yeah, just happened to be Portuguese man-of-war that morning. I fortunately only got stung on the leg, and it's like, well, did that affect your race day? Well, probably, but everybody else got stung too.
Exactly.
So we get out of the water, and my family's there, so that's good to see. They're on the boat. The kids are sort of grumpy because it's so early in the morning, but they're like, "Go, Dad, go!" And get into the changing tent. You weren't allowed to wear a wetsuit there, but you can. I had a swimsuit on, so I ripped it off, and I had my biking clothes underneath it. And I don't wear socks or anything when I bike. I just threw my shoes on, put my helmet on, and took off biking, and thought I need to get out there before the winds do.
Now, this is where we pick up the story that you started telling me when I first talked to you about this when you got back. You showed me a pretty awesome video, it was a short video, of the fire dancers.
Yeah.
And then you immediately went into, I thought I was probably going to die on the bike.
Yeah. So cycling I thought was my strong suit. And in my other races, I've done that distance in 4.5 to 5 hours, 112 miles, 4.5 to 5.5 hours. That's my biking time.
Yeah.
I was in better shape for this race than I had been in those other races. So I'm like, all right, even with all the elevation, all the climbing, I'm going to do this bike portion in about 5 hours, 5.5 hours. Didn't happen. I got out there, first 30 miles, all lava fields. It was hot. It was humid. I'm doing my nutrition because you got to, every 45 minutes I'm putting in 100 calories of this, 100. You just got to make sure your nutrition's on so you're not falling flat on the race, on the run later. First 30, 40 miles are good. Start to turn to Hawi and the wind. And the winds are going to be bad there no matter what.
Yeah.
But the crosswinds were just brutal, like brutal. The first part so calm, the crosswinds, and you're on this aero bike and you're just like, oh, you're like trying to not wreck and die. But some people did wreck and unfortunately ended their race short just because the winds were, we're talking like 25, 30 mile per hour gust hitting you. And sort of like a quartering headwind. So you get all the way up to this climb, you get to Hawi, there's some people there, and you're not seeing any people out on the course. It's just lava fields. It's just you, lava fields, and other racers and
your brain and your mind.
Your brain and your mind, which is a big part of that race.
Yeah.
So you turn, you come back, and you're like, all right, I'm going to have a tailwind now because I just had a headwind going all the way up. Well, it was still a quartering wind going down the hill, but it was a little bit of a tailwind. So going down that hill, I'm hitting like 40 miles per hour, feeling great, but still like getting blown all over the place. And then make the turn back to Kona at this other section. I think there's maybe 45 miles back to Kona, and then you got like another 10 miles before you get to the transition area for the run. Make that turn, and there was a headwind. And I talked to other people about the race, and they're like, yeah, there's almost always a tailwind when you get to that point. So I'd mentally prepared myself for an easier second portion of the bike ride, And it wasn't. It was just wind. It was just wind. It was where I've got a power meter on my bike. I'm anticipating producing 190 watts of power and holding about a 21 to 23 mile per hour pace.
Yeah.
I'm pushing 220 watts and barely hitting 13 miles per hour. I felt like I was just pedaling in place and was getting nowhere. And I wasn't getting passed by a lot of people, and I wasn't passing anybody. So everybody's experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing. But a lot of the people were faster on the bike. A lot of the the professional athletes and those Australians I talked about, they're super fast. So apparently that wind that I was experiencing was a little worse in the day. I got to mile 100, and I put my bike against a lava rock, and I laid on the asphalt. And I started questioning myself a lot, like,
that was a turning point for you.
Can I do this?
Yeah.
Can I do this? And in my head, I played what Coach Bender used to tell us when we were whining and wrestling practice. The body does what the mind tells it to do.
Yes.
So I tell my body to get up and start biking. So I did, and finished the bike portion, got in the running tent, changed in my running shoes, saw my family, and I said, I'm not going to finish in time. There's a 17-hour cutoff. 17-hour cutoff, so...
And how far are you in at this point after two?
After
the swim and the bike?
114.
What time frame?
Oh, what time frame? I am about 9 hours in.
Into constant effort.
Yeah.
Constant physical effort.
Yep. So I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, okay, if I perform on the run like I did on the bike, I'm not going to have enough time to finish. Like, I don't know if I can do it in that amount of time. And, my daughter gives me a hug, the boys give me a hug, and they're like, what's wrong, Dad? I'm like, I'm hurting. This hurts. Like, everything on my body hurts right now. My hips hurt. Like, everything hurts from the bike.
And worse than that, doubt starts to creep in.
Doubt's creeping in. Like, you've trained, you've told all these people you're doing this race. Now you're not only letting yourself down, you're letting all your friends down, all the people that helped you train, all the people that shared your sacrifices with you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna let not just myself down, but everybody down. I'm not gonna finish this race. And my wife looks at me, she goes, you got this. I'm like, all right, I got this. And it started raining. And of course, it was like 90 degrees. It started raining. I'm like, oh, this feels wonderful. But my feet are soggy now, and I'm starting to get blisters. But so I started running at like a 9-minute pace, which was faster than I'd planned, but I wanted to make up some time. And I started feeling good again. Like, after about 5 miles of running, I'm like, all right, I can do this. So my game plan was to run a mile, and then they have an aid station where you can get water and electrolytes and use the restroom if you have to. So I'll run, and that aid station's probably the length of this boardroom, maybe 30, 40 feet long. So each aid station, I'm going to walk, regain a little bit of composure, make sure I'm doing good, check my heart rate, see how I am, which I have a heart rate monitor on. And I was doing good. So I kept that pace up, and then the sun goes down, and all that doubt started coming back. I'm starting to really think.
You're starting to look around and say, oh gosh, people are mad at me now because I'm still out here.
Well, and there was a lot of people still out there. And at this point on the run, I passed a lot of people on the run that had at some point on the bike been ahead of me. So I was fortunate there that I was able to still start picking people off, and that gives you a little bit of sense of accomplishment. Like,
you're looking for any sense of accomplishment.
Even if it's just little accomplishments. And one part on the run, I was at mile I think I was at mile 19, and I've done the math. I'm like, all right, I can walk the rest of the way, and I'm going to finish this race on time. I got this. So I saw this other guy that was part of the XC group. I'm like, hey man, how you doing? He's like, I'm struggling. Started talking to the guy, and he was a Penn State wrestler. Wrestled for 4 years in college, Penn State, and so I was like, I'll just walk with you a little bit. I got time. Let's do this. And we walked for probably a half a mile together before I took off running. But it was neat to share that experience with him, and to see that another wrestler, and like maybe the wrestlers are just gluten for punishment. I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, for sure. A lot of wrestlers end up in MMA, and but I tell you what, and you think about those instances. Each instance that you needed something mentally, there was either you manufacturing it in however you had to. Coach Bender says, your brain tells you, your mind tells you can do this. Get up, buddy, get up, buddy. Or seeing your family for just that short amount of time and having your wife say you can do this. Or again, interaction with somebody else who you've realized is struggling just as much or more than you are at that moment. So those little inklings of just what you need to keep going, just what you need to keep going.
Yeah, and there was a lot of faith got me through it. At one point on the bike, I said, God, whatever your will is fine. If I'm not to finish this race, that's fine. But like, crash me on the bike right now and put me out of my misery.
Don't let me quit.
Don't let me just quit. Don't let me quit. But if you're going to take me out, let's do it early, man.
Take a leg or something.
Let's get this over with. But yeah, so after I talked to that guy, like 5 miles left on the run, something like that, and just sort of jogged it in. Jog ran. Everything on my body hurt. Feet, my toenails were falling off, blistered up. Just part of endurance racing. And when you get down to Ali Drive, that final, you start hearing the crowd roaring, and there's people everywhere. And to hear that crowd roar, you really start getting some adrenaline, and you start hitting different gears. And then you get up there and you hear the announcer say, Quinton Keaton, you are an Ironman.
The USA now, please welcome Quinton Keaton, you are an Ironman. Amazing, Quinton. You rock star.
Yeah. Cross the line, and my family's there, put the lei over my neck, and just a wonderful experience.
You can't beat that experience.
Yeah. And then
in that last moment when the pain subsides for at least a moment, when the adrenaline hits, everything is worth it.
Yeah.
Every bit of pain, every bit of anguish, every bit of mental doubt that was in your mind, all of it becomes worth it in that one moment. And that one moment, although it's a moment in time, I imagine will last a lot longer than that for you, would be my guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was also a sense of disappointment when I crossed the finish line because I didn't hit my time goal. So that was I'm going to have to try to do this again probably.
Ever the competitor.
But then I was like, yeah, you're just never satisfied with. Like, I think if I would have hit my time goal, I would have been a little more satisfied. Like, yeah, I just completed the world championship, and I'm very thankful that I was able to complete it. But at the same time, it's like, man, your goal was 2.5 hours quicker than this, and you need to get with it.
So you complete what few people can complete in the history, obviously, of the world. And again, lots of people do it, but in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of people can do this or finish it. You've had some time now back home to rest, recover, get your body right again. When you look back on it overall, what is the experience for you?
Just phenomenal. Very thankful to have had the opportunity to do it, and very thankful that my body was able to do it and my mind was able to do it, and definitely would encourage people to set goals and reach for trying harder things and pushing themselves. Get into it easy, just like with this prescription for your health. I think with any exercise-based program or diet program, I think you see it a lot at like the beginning of the year, New Year's. Everybody sets these New Year's resolutions, and they go in so hard, and they end up just crashing because it's not sustainable at that pace for that at that quick. So just when I started training for the Ironman, I didn't start out with 20-mile runs. I started out with 5-mile runs and then 10-mile runs. So I think you just have to ease into whatever you're going to do. So if you set a goal to run a 5K, don't do a 5K your first training run. Go out there and walk a mile. Then the next one, maybe go out there, walk a half mile, jog a quarter mile, walk a quarter mile. Just gradually get into it. Make it fun, make it enjoyable, and do something that you can sustain for long term.
So I think that's what I love about this Prescription for Your Health program, the amount of people that are there to help people not overdo it. They will guide you through the steps of doing it incrementally, and they will take away that fear of doing something different. They will take away that fear of not knowing what you don't know. You're obviously an extreme case of being able to be athletic, but whether it be you or BJ Schreckengoss, who we talked to, who was just trying to learn to walk again, you did it the right way because you listened to your body. You figured out incrementally how to get to where you needed to get. But again, you also had mental fortitude, the wherewithal to stick with something, you were able to sacrifice. All those things are going to be required in this program. I think just a wonderful story, Quinton. I absolutely am thrilled that you were able to come here and tell us a story about being an Ironman. You are an Ironman, and they can't ever take that away from you, which is so cool. You have that moniker forever, which is weird. One more question for you.
Okay.
Is it going to happen again?
Another Ironman?
Yeah.
It's so hard to say because, asking me right now, I'm going to say no. But
it has only been about a month or two or so.
Yeah, it's been 3 months.
3 months now.
Maybe when my kids are grown up, feel like that it does cut into a lot of family time. So yeah.
Knowing Allegra at this point, she might end up doing one herself.
Now, definitely, if my kids asked me to do a race with them, I would get there. I'd get to the point to where I could with them. Yeah.
That's so neat. It's so neat that you were able to involve them in some of your training, obviously.
Yeah.
And
so
of course
that's the thing I didn't even tell you about, that the day before the race, they had a kids dip and dash, and all 3 of my kids participated in that. So they got to swim in the bay and then run down Ali Drive for a mile and back. They all got to do it too. So hopefully that ingrains that triathlon spirit into them, and they want to do it again.
Well, as we speak today, there's a very increased spirit of your kids, and Allegra, number one, just saw that she is a second-ranked wrestler in the state of West Virginia at 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pretty cool.
Love the sport of women's wrestling. It has
it's
been
amazing.
Chaotically increasing. I love it. And obviously your daughter got bit by the bug too.
Yeah, she did.
And she's a great wrestler over there at Parkersburg South. Quinton, thank you so much for your story. Thanks for what you do, again, for Roane County and the community. Always offering and always pushing opportunities to be physically active. Physical activity helps mental clarity and mental health as well. And you are a big portion of what Roane General Hospital is also trying to do here. A great story. You're an Ironman, buddy. And I look forward to whatever it is that comes next for you.
Well, thanks for having me on and letting me share my story. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm excited with Roane General's prescription and what they got going on and being a part of it. Kyle actually just emailed me yesterday about the corporate cup. So we're already planning for that. So I hope we get a lot of businesses involved in that again this summer.
Looking forward to it. Folks, it's been a great conversation again with Quinton Keaton, of course, General Manager at Jack Garrett Ford and Ironman officially.